There is a moment from last winter that it stays in my body. I was sitting in my car outside a small recording studio, heat off, hands cold, phone in my lap, listening to lullabies I paid for, lullabies I thought were for my future child. And between the songs, between the takes, she laughs. Not at me, with someone else. Then she whispers in Russian that the lullabies are for their baby someday, not mine. My name is Daniel. I am 59, and this is how I lost $52,400 and the last version of my future because I believed a woman 24 years younger than me wanted to build a family with me. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, she did not hack my accounts. She did not steal my passwords. She did not empty my bank in one dramatic moment. This is not a crime story. This is about what happens when someone learns exactly what you are most desperate for and builds themselves around that need. If you think your situation is different, if you think love protects you from reality, you should probably listen carefully. So, let me go back. 3 years ago, my life was already shrinking. Quiet. Too quiet. I used to be a photojournalist. War zones, protest, disaster aftermaths. That was my life for decades. Airports, deadlines, hotels, adrenaline, then long stretches of emptiness. People imagine that life is exciting. Sometimes it is. Mostly, it is just lonely. Relationships did not survive that lifestyle. There was one serious one in my 30s. We talked about kids. We tried. Then I kept leaving for assignments, and she kept staying until she stopped staying. I came back to an apartment with half the furniture gone and a letter on the counter. After that, I told myself family could wait. Work first, purpose first, stability later. Later showed up faster than I expected. By my mid-50s, editors stopped calling as much. Younger freelancers were faster, cheaper, more flexible. I sold most of my gear, took on editing work remotely. Enough income to live simply. Small apartment, old Subaru, no luxury, no safety net either, just existence. The silence got loud. That is why I downloaded a language exchange app. I told myself it was practical, brain exercise, relearning Russian. I had worked in Eastern Europe years ago and missed the language. That is where I met Alina. She was 24, from Yekaterinburg. Worked in digital marketing for a small clothing brand. Tiny apartment, cheap furniture, cat that always walked across her keyboard during video calls. Normal life. We started with simple conversations, music, movies, complaining about work, then voice messages. She preferred voice messages, long ones, rambling ones. She would say, sorry, I talk too much, and laugh. Her laugh was warm, soft, the kind that makes a room feel less empty, even through a phone. After a few weeks, she started talking about life goals, stability, family, children, a lot about children. She would say things like, I want to be a mother while I still have the energy for it. Or, I imagine reading stories every night. Or, I say baby names sometimes when I cannot sleep. She brought this up on her own, over and over. And I did not realize how much of me was still aching around that topic until someone started speaking to it directly. We moved to video calls. She would sit by the window with tea, wrapped in a blanket, city lights behind her. She listened, actually listened, remembered details, asked about things I mentioned weeks before. No one had done that in years. After about 6 months, she told me she had a green card through her father. He had immigrated years ago, remarried, filed paperwork. She said she could visit the U.S. easily. No visa drama, no sponsorship issues. She said she wanted to see if we felt the same in real life. That felt grounding, real, like she was serious. She came to see me twice. The first time, she stayed for 10 days. I picked her up at the airport with stupid, nervous hands, like I was 20 again. She hugged me tightly, longer than I expected. She smelled like citrus shampoo and cold air. We cooked together, walked around the neighborhood. She sat on my couch with her feet tucked under her, listening to me talk about assignments I had worked on years ago, like they were still important. She fell asleep with her head on my shoulder while we watched some dumb documentary. The second visit was longer, almost 3 weeks. She brought little things from Russia: chocolate, a cheap wool scarf, a postcard with my name written carefully on it. There were moments that felt deeply real. She would reach for my hand first in public. She would talk about what kind of school systems she preferred. She would say things like, "When we have our place someday, I want a small kitchen but lots of light." Those moments, those are the ones that hurt the most to remember now. I also went to Russia to see her. I stayed in her city, met her friends, saw her apartment, walked through grocery stores with her, bought cheap street food and ate it on cold benches. That life felt real, ordinary, shared. There were warning signs, too. I see them clearly now. She guarded her phone, a little too carefully sometimes. She would step into the bathroom to take certain calls. She had male friends she described vaguely. Just colleagues, just friends. Always just friends. I noticed. I registered it. Then I told myself I was being insecure, that I was older, that I needed to trust more, not less. During one of my visits, she cried in the middle of the night, said she had gone to a doctor earlier that month, said they saw irregularities, said maybe cysts, maybe fertility issues. She was scared. She kept saying she was terrified of losing her chance to become a mother. That broke something open inside me. Later, she told me about fertility preservation, egg freezing. She said the clinic suggested it as a precaution. She said it was expensive. She said she felt ashamed, even thinking about asking anyone for help. She never directly said, "Can you pay for this?" She just shared the problem, the fear, the unfairness of it. She sent clinic information. The clinic was real. The website existed. The emails were professional. Invoices looked legitimate. Everything looked normal. Then came the doctor voice messages. Calm male voice, medical language, clear explanations. It sounded credible. I started helping financially, slowly, carefully. Consultation, tests, medication, scheduling. Every transfer came with this thought: this is what commitment looks like. This is what building a future requires sometimes. At the same time, she leaned harder into the idea of family. She talked about raising a child bilingual. She joked about me being an older dad. She said our baby would grow up with stories from all the places I had seen. One day she said, almost shyly, maybe I should record Russian lullabies professionally so our child grows up with the language. She said it would be beautiful, something lasting. I paid for the studio, the engineer, the editing, the storage. It did not feel insane in the moment. It felt meaningful. She sent me the finished lullabies, her voice soft, careful, almost sacred. I listened to them late at night sometimes, sitting in the dark, headphones on. I know how that sounds. I know. That was the future I thought I was building. Then things shifted. Replies got slower, calls got canceled. She was always tired, always busy, always something. She started mentioning Anton more often. A friend, someone who helped with audio, someone who understood tech, someone who helped with projects. I told myself this was normal, that suspicion would ruin everything, that trust was the only way. Then one night, during a video call, she laughed toward the side of the room, not at me, toward someone else. I asked who was there. She paused, said nobody, then said maybe the neighbor, then said she was distracted. But that laugh stayed with me, because I had heard it before, in the doctor voice messages. That night I opened those messages again, listened closely, compared the rhythm, the breathing, the pauses. I told myself I was imagining things. Then I checked the file details. Device name, Anton's iPhone. I stared at that screen for a long time. I wish that had been the worst part. When something inside you cracks, you start looking for more truth, even when you already know it will hurt. I logged into the studio account I paid for, the one with the Lullabies. I had only ever downloaded the final versions before. There was a folder I had never opened, raw. Inside were dozens of recordings. I clicked one. And that is where the moment I started this video with actually begins. I clicked the first raw recording. At first it sounded normal. Her voice, the studio room tone, a bit of echo. Then she stopped singing and laughed. A real laugh, relaxed, intimate. A man laughed back, not far from the microphone, close, like he was sitting right beside her. She said his name softly, Anton. The way you say someone's name when you have said it 1,000 times before. He said something I did not fully understand, but I understood the tone. Teasing, comfortable, familiar. Then she said it. Quiet, almost like a secret. These are for our baby someday, not for him, not for the future we had talked about, for them. I took the headphones off, put the phone face down on the table. Just sat there. No crying, no shouting, nothing dramatic. Just this strange, hollow feeling, like something important inside me had shut off. I did not confront her that night, or the next day, or the day after. I still texted, still replied, still acted normal. I think I needed time to accept what I already knew. She kept talking about stress, about being tired, about needing space, about feeling overwhelmed by everything. Then, one day, she said she needed to be honest. She said she had feelings for someone else. She said it happened slowly. She said she never meant to hurt me. She said she did not plan it. She said she still cared about me deeply, just differently. That sentence, that one stays with you. Caring deeply, but differently. I did not tell her I already knew. I did not tell her about the recordings. I did not tell her about the device name. I did not have the energy for confrontation. I just said I understood. She said she needed time to think. Then time turned into distance. Distance turned into silence. Eventually, she said she could not continue, that it was unfair to both of us, that she needed to live her real life. And that was it. No dramatic ending. No final argument, just a slow fading out of the future I had built in my head. Then came the part I did not talk about with anyone for months, the financial part. Because when the emotional thing collapses, you still have to wake up the next morning and live inside the practical consequences. I had spent money slowly, over time. It never felt reckless in the moment. It felt like responsibility, like investment, like care. But when I added it up after she left, when I finally forced myself to open all the bank statements and look at everything together, the number made me physically nauseous. Studio costs, medical payments, flights back and forth, hotels in Russia, money sent for emergencies, money sent for stress, money sent because she had a bad week, money sent because I thought love meant support. I did not lose everything in one collapse. I lost it in 1,000 small, well-intentioned decisions. I had to sell my car. That one hurt more than I expected. That Subaru had been with me for years. It was the last thing that felt like stability. Now I take the bus. I had not taken public transport regularly since I was in my 20s. Now I stand there in the mornings, surrounded by teenagers with headphones, by people rushing to jobs, holding onto a metal pole with one hand and my phone in the other, trying not to feel like I somehow fell backwards through my own life. There are moments where the driver calls out stops and I realize I missed mine because I was staring out the window, thinking about a life that does not exist. I buy the cheapest groceries now, discount bread, instant noodles, canned soup when it is on sale. I stand in the store comparing prices between brands like it is a math exam. I used to travel internationally for work. Now I stand in an aisle debating whether I can afford real cheese or if processed slices will have to do for the week. I canceled subscriptions, sold furniture, sold the last of my old lenses that I had sworn I would never part with. The worst part is not the money. It is the shame. The quiet kind. The private kind. The kind where someone asks how you were doing and you say fine, because explaining the truth feels too exposing. The kind where you scroll through old messages sometimes, even though you know better, just to confirm that you did not imagine how real it felt. The kind where you hear a certain laugh in a coffee shop and your stomach drops for half a second before your brain catches up. I found out later, through social media, that she and Anton are together openly now. Photos, smiles, trips, comments from friends calling them perfect together. And the worst part is, they look right together. Same age, same world, same energy. I stared at one photo for a long time once. They were sitting close, comfortable, natural. And I thought, that is what I was trying to borrow. A life that was never built for me to occupy. I do not hate her. That might be the strangest part of all this. I thought I would. I expected rage. I expected bitterness. What I feel, more than anything, is embarrassment. At myself. At how badly I wanted to believe. At how carefully I ignored the warning signs, the guarded phone, the vague explanations, the way certain stories did not fully add up, the way some emotions felt slightly rehearsed. I saw all of it. I just chose to interpret it generously, because the alternative was too painful. I built a future in my head, and then lived inside that imagination like it was reality. That is the part no one warned you about. How powerful the fantasy becomes when it feeds a wound you have carried for decades. The desire to have a family, the desire to matter deeply to someone, the desire to believe that time had not fully passed you by. When someone touches those desires, you do not think clearly. You think emotionally. You justify. You excuse. You rationalize. You call it love, when sometimes it is just loneliness wearing a nicer outfit. I am saying all of this because I know there are people watching who recognize pieces of themselves here. People in age gap relationships, people in long distance relationships, people sending money because it feels like care, people ignoring small doubts because the story feels too beautiful to question. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am here to tell you to slow down when someone offers you exactly the dream you are most desperate for. Because that is when you are least objective. That is when you are most vulnerable. That is when you will accept things you would warn anyone else about. I wanted a child for most of my adult life. I postponed it for work. Then, I believed I had been given a second chance. That belief cost me more than money. It cost me time. It cost me dignity. It cost me trust in my own judgment. I am rebuilding now, slowly, carefully, more cautiously than I ever lived before. Bus rides, cheap meals, smaller life, smaller expectations. But at least this life is real. It is not built on voice messages and studio recordings and imagined futures. If there is one thing I want you to take from this, it is this. Loneliness will make you believe things that logic never would. And when someone shows up who seems to solve all your old regrets at once, that is the exact moment to pause, not to lean in harder. That is all. That is the story. And if you listened this far, thank you.